Just so we're all on the same page regarding who Antonio Margheriti is, I'm just going to read out his Wikipedia bio for this particular entry upload, because what can I say about Giants of Rome? If I hadn't already discussed several peplot on this program, I might be explaining the context of what that is. Otherwise, I may recommend seeking out an older video regarding the peplum genre, Hero of Rome, The Fall of Rome, Devil of the Desert versus the Son of Hercules. Actually, no, that's the one we did recently. Hercules, Prisoner of Evil, I meant to say. Nevertheless, Antonio Margheriti, also known under his pseudonyms Anthony M. Dawson and Anthony Daisies, he was born on the 19th of September 1930 and he passed away on the 4th of November 2002, aged 72. He was an Italian filmmaker. He worked in many different genres in the Italian film industry and was known for his sometimes derivative, but often stylish and entertaining science fiction, sword and sandal, horror/giallo, Euro spy, spaghetti western, Vietnam War, and action movies that were released to a wide international audience. Imagine being the filmmaker who could direct great sword and sandal films, great science fiction films, great horror/giallo films, great Euro spy films, and great spaghetti western films, and maybe great action film or two as well. I don't know if Margheriti made a great film in all of these categories, but he tried to given his limitations. Born in Rome, Margheriti was the son of a railroad engineer, began his film career in 1950 working with Mario Sarandrai. He then began making short documentaries, beginning with Vecchia Roma in 1953. In 1954, he's credited with special effects in films such as Pino Marsanti's I Cinque del Adamello and La Notte che la Terra Tremo. By 1955, he was credited in screenplays such as Classe de Ferro. Margheriti grew up reading science fiction comics, and when he was offered the film Spacemen, aka Assignment Outer Space, we discussed that recently, he signed on as director. He followed up this film with Battle of the Worlds, much improved, starring actor Claude Rains, which was in turn followed by The Golden Arrow with Tab Hunter and some more peplum-style films such as The Fall of Rome and Giants of Rome. We've discussed all of those films here thus far. Golden Arrow is quite impressive for what it is, I think. Other genres tackled in the 1960s included horror, Castle of Blood, The Long Hair of Death, and The Virgin of Nuremberg. You might know that as Horror Castle, which we discussed recently. The former two we'll discuss relatively soon. And the Euro spy films, Bob Fleming, Mission Casablanca, and Operation Goldman. You'll know that as Lightning Bolt, which we discussed fairly early in FOTD. Mission Casablanca, I know that as 077. I was about to say 077, stupid. The Richard Harrison Eurospy film. He's a star of this film as well. Margheriti then returned to science fiction with his Gamma 1 series, originally filmed for the Italian television series Fantascienza, but afterwards released theatrically. Margheriti followed these films with some westerns, including Take a Hard Ride and God Said to Cain, that stars Klaus Kinski. In the 1980s, Margheriti created films following the success of Platoon and Raiders of the Lost Ark, such as The Last Hunter and Hunters of the Golden Cobra, which both starred David Warbeck. Warbeck also starred in Tiger Joe, a film overshadowed by tragedy, when Margheriti's longtime cinematographer, the great and very talented Riccardo Pallottini, died in a plane crash while attempting to get the film's last shot. He delved into the genre of films inspired by The Wild Geese with Codename Wild Geese and Commando Leopard starring Lewis Collins, as well as Conan the Barbarian 1982 with You're the Hunter from the Future. That's one of Margheriti's best known films due to its absolute ridiculousness and further exposure by Noah Antweiler, aka the Spoony One. What a productive and inspiring life he's lived. But You're the Hunter from the Future is actually one of the few Margheriti films which is just beyond the pale atrocious, unfortunately. Anyway, Margheriti's specialty in films was low-budget efforts that fell into genres such as action and science fiction. To make films in short amounts of time, Margheriti applied techniques such as shooting with several cameras simultaneously, allowing him to record master shots, close-ups, and more. Very considered. This often led him to light films very carefully, and allowed him to create several films per year. Maximized productions, gooey, satiating genre pulp. Antonio Margheriti gets the more gratifying core of these genre films without being impressive films around them all of the time. And he was the Italian genre exploitation director whom all the others attempted to emulate, I suspect. You know, types like Umberto Lenzi and later maybe Diodato. I think Margheriti is the ultimate archetype and possibly the most impressive of these individuals. You can gauge who these individuals are by going to Wikipedia and finding out go to a list of spaghetti western filmmakers, all those people. Leone was successful enough to be able to create whatever films he wanted after the Dollars trilogy. After the, well, mostly it was westerns, to be fair, I suppose. Never got to make Stalingrad, that's sad. But otherwise, the spaghetti western filmmakers ended up working on the Eurospy films in the mid 60s, and then, of course, some macaroni combat films in the latter part of the 60s, those Giallo horror films in the 70s, the Poliziotteschi, of course, throughout that same decade. And then the 80s, they try to salvage it with these action war films, these run and gun films set in the jungle, like Commando or Rambo 2, settling on some, inspired by Fulci, who was the best director of these guys until Michel Soavi came along. But he was, like Fulci, he was making these actually kind of sophisticated, conceptually invigorating, yet photographically overwhelming horror pictures. Lenzi tried to do this toward the end of his career. We documented Lenzi's career quite well, I think, or at least methodically, let's say. How much detail do you want to give Umberto Lenzi in a retrospective, right? In any case, I think we'll close it here. Thanks again, everyone.